Hello again, this is Chad with AV Escapes, and welcome to episode 2 of our serial, No Evil. This episode encompasses chapters 2 and 3 of No Evil. Last we left Sam, he'd just reached out to his estranged friend Case for help. Let's see where his journey takes him this week. It was hard for Sam to admit. Sure, he was a borderline alcoholic with rampant OCD. Yeah, he had settled into taking sleeping pills semi-daily like a kid accepting cotton candy for dinner. But could he admit that he, a grown man, was living in fear of nightmares? It was pathetic. Even as a child, he had no great fear of the night. Now he was scared. Deeply scared. The voice in his dreams, distant at first, would build slowly. He'd hear a whisper at the foot of his bed, then breath on the nape of his neck. Lately, there'd been just a glimmer of understanding before waking. He never remembered words, just feelings, like sorrow. That's what was so terrifying. The voice seemed to amplify all his sadness, to a point. A hypodermic injection of misery and regret, of desolation. He unloaded it all on Billy Case. His former best friend was now a practicing psychiatrist. They'd been tight for years, but had lost touch. He understood. Case had a new wife. He was starting a family in his own practice. By comparison, Sam guessed his shit didn't matter that much. But still it stung. To Sam it felt like a rejection. He'd been abandoned. When it seemed Case had higher priorities, Sam stopped calling. His sadness had festered into anger, and Case knew it. Sam felt he needed to accept the blame for their estrangement. After all, Case had been trying for over a year. All of Sam's pent-up anger and resentment towards Case showed its true juvenile self in the face of what he considered some sort of mental dissociation. And so he told his friend everything. Case nodded along, listening to Sam's story, letting him work through the details and through his own trepidation. I can't sleep. I've tried pills. Too many pills. The other day I finished my shift and kept on working for another hour or so before they told me it was time to leave. I didn't even realize what time it was. Have you been stressing about something? Other than this dream or sleep? Is it? Is it Nicole? Yeah, come on, Case. I haven't thought about Nicole in, fuck's sakes, like 2 years. I told you it just started out of the blue. I'm going fucking crazy, and I'll be goddamned if I can tell you why. Well, I don't know. You two had a rough time after college. I just thought, maybe. Yeah, I guess it was a bit of a rough time. I was pretty alone, Sam said. He turned away. That was your choice, Sam. We were always there. And I know Nicole. Case seemingly thought better of this comment and trailed off. It didn't feel like it, Sam said, a shock of shame burning him. He knew he had severed the ties. Case shook his head, looking exasperated and sad. He opened his mouth to speak, then took a breath instead. I know you think we're on Nicole's side. That's how you always felt. You have to understand that we were trying to watch out for you, he said, the faintest trace of a tear in the corner of his eye. Nicole wanted more out of life. It seemed like you didn't want any of it by the end of school. I'm sorry if you felt abandoned, I am. But you made that choice. It was hard for Sam to absorb those words, but he knew they were true. At the time he felt cornered. He was being pressured to succeed in something he wasn't sure he believed in. Everyone seemed to be working towards something, a predetermined end. But Sam couldn't picture himself in any of their aspirations. He looked at Case and nodded. I know I was a shit friend then, Case, and I'm a shit friend now. I admit it freely. But I can't deal with this alone. I need your help. I'm seriously worried. I've taken cabs to work for the last 4 days because I'm afraid to drive. The only reason I've been able to keep working at the plant is I volunteered to do everyone's sanitation shifts. They think I'm fucking cracked out. They're just looking for me to slip up. Sam neatly folded his napkin in 4 equal squares, tore them and arranged them equidistantly around his glass. I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was this bad, Case said, eyeing Sam's arrangement. Case took out his phone and a pad of paper. He pounded out something on the screen and sat it down. A few seconds later it vibrated, and he nodded. Then he wrote down a few lines, ripped off a sheet, and handed the page to Sam. Meet me at that address at 8 tomorrow morning. I'll have a friend with me. She runs a sleep clinic. We'll do everything we can to figure out what's going on. Thanks. Case got up and wrapped his coat around him. Case, Sam sighed. I'm scared. I know. When Case was gone, Sam threw down a handful of change for his untouched orange juice and left. He wandered the streets around his apartment, watching them come to life. Men in suits hustled into office buildings, cyclists zipped past idle traffic. It all made him feel alone. By noon, he felt he might collapse from exhaustion. His feet and back ached and he needed some food, so he started back home. His apartment wasn't impressive. 1 bedroom, 1 bath, a small kitchen area, and just enough room for a couch and a TV. The floors were some sort of faux hardwood. Dust penetrated the crevices between the boards, and Sam ran his feet across the uneven edges on his way to the cupboard. He tossed his keys on the counter and inspected his meager options: a half jar of peanut butter, some unsalted soda crackers, and an untouched bag of flour. The thought of grocery shopping made him feel sick, but his refrigerated alternatives were equally unimpressive: various hot sauces, some mustard, and an empty jar of pickle brine he'd been meaning to clean out and throw away. Sam closed the fridge and grabbed a jar of peanut butter, a sleeve of crackers, and a knife. He dug in. It wasn't gourmet, but he'd be damned if it wasn't satisfying. With a mouthful of cracker and peanut butter, he reached for the remote, flicked on the flat screen, and sat back. With plenty of options, but none that mattered, he usually just watched one thing: sports highlights. The highlights from the night before played throughout the day. Sam would watch in the morning, and then again when he got home. The repetition soothed him. The content didn't really matter, it was just something to focus on. A thought that wasn't sleep-related. His eyes fluttered. A bell? No. A horn. Yes, that's it. Wait. What is it? Sam's thoughts spun. All at once he realized there was only darkness. He could see nothing. He tried to think of something else, anything else, but his mind went straight to the hand, and it appeared, wrinkled and clutching at air. It imbued a feeling of so much sorrow it was unbearable. He could feel the hot sting of tears, but he couldn't wake up. The hand was so close he could smell a trace of something. Mothballs? It was something like that. Or maybe the smell of a piece of clothing that had been left damp for too long. The sound again, vibrating. A toll of a bell that's been auto-tuned. Something he couldn't make out. The word vessel suddenly popped brightly into his vision, as clear as day in sickly, bold red lettering. The word pulsed in front of the hand. The hand faded away to a lone black dot like an old-fashioned television shutting down, but the word continued to pulse, 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 pulse. The horn belted out. It was a goal horn. Matthews just lit the lamp for the 10th time today. The highlights were ending. Sam's chest and neck were soaked. The jar of peanut butter was on its side on the floor and the crackers crushed in his trembling hand. It was almost 1 o'clock now. Sam looked toward the bathroom, stood, and in hesitant strides walked to the medicine cabinet. The sight of himself in the mirror was like seeing someone you once knew. There was recognition, but with a feeling of wary unfamiliarity. Sam didn't know who this person was. His face was gaunt and almost gray, his eyes sunken with double bags under them. His brown hair was flecked with white at his temples. Sam opened the cabinet and grabbed a bottle. The label said benzodiazepine. The prescription told Sam to take 1 tablet for a full 8 hours of sleep, but he popped a pair into his mouth, chewed them, and turned on the tap. He sucked in a gulp of water, took a leak, and headed to the bedroom. 6 hours later, Sam was in the shower. He didn't remember how he got there, but that had become the norm. His eyes flickered, and he wasn't entirely sure if he was awake or dreaming. The feeling faded for a familiar scent which renewed his sense of reality. The coffee pot was pre-programmed. A fresh cup was already brewing in the kitchen, and the smell was strangely uplifting. Sam chortled to himself. I really am losing it. The cab was already waiting for Sam when he got downstairs. Where you heading? The packing plant. It's 860 Enterprise. The cab driver turned and looked Sam up and down. He was a big man, probably 300 pounds or more in Sam's estimation. He had a scruffy beard, which had wrapped so far around to the back of his neck, it looked almost as if the cab was being piloted by a partially shaved bear. His breath smelled of stale coffee, and the entire car smelled of cigarettes. Sam chuckled at the sticker proclaiming this cab a no-smoking zone. I hear they make good money down that plant. What are you doing taking cabs to work? Get busted for drinking and driving or something? Actually, I just love the conversation, Sam said, ignoring a slight twinge of annoyance at the intrusion. It's always interesting. So what do you pull down over there? My niece, Kevin, worked there for a bit, said the cab driver, hitting the K in Kevin extra hard. She's, used to be Kendra. Anyways, he told me she pulled in, $18 an hour, that right? Always interesting. Hey, listen, I get it. Nobody wants to admit they got popped for drinking and driving. My cousin Bravo got caught at least twice. Said he would have got a third that I know about, but the cops that pulled him over took a box of cigars for their discretion. Know what I mean? As he said discretion, he took his hands off the wheel and flailed some exaggerated air quotes. He bellowed a harsh, cigarette-twanged laugh at his own story as if he told it 1,000 times and it always killed. Sam just smiled at him. Sam genuinely liked people. He liked listening, taking in stories. Mostly they were benign, but always interesting in some way. He'd stopped listening lately, though. He'd basically shut down. Case had asked him if it was Nicole that had been keeping him up at night. It wasn't. That much was true. But Sam did still think about her most days. They met in college. Sam took marketing and Nicole was studying nursing. Sam thought of a trip they'd taken to the falls after graduation. They drank chilled Chardonnay like they knew what they were doing, swirling it in the glass, smelling it. Still smells like wine, Sam had said. She laughed. They laughed a lot. Sam never thought they'd be apart, but she left. Sam had stopped listening, but he could hear the cab driver droning on. There's always a bigger piece, she says. Another great guffaw of grating smoker laugh. Sam briefly envisioned the man gargling with sand. The streets had a sheen to them that could have been black ice. Traffic lights reflected gloomily off them. Sam watched them blur by like his distorted memories. She left, Sam thought, because he could never get it together. He'd been in marketing, switched to accounting, and eventually decided to take a year to find some direction. Nicole was already completing her master's. She said she couldn't look after him anymore. He needed to grow up. He needed to realize what was important in life. Sam always thought the answer to that was happiness, but everyone else seemed to have other goals. The thought made him angry. We're here, that'll be $15. Here, said Sam, handing the driver a battered $20 bill. And that's it for chapters 2 and 3, episode 2 of our serial No Evil. Let us know what you think in the comments. If you like what you hear, please follow, like, subscribe, click the bell, do all those social media things. Tell your pets, tell your neighbor's pets. Run a skywriter to etch it in Skybraille, take a photo and send it to your in-laws during small talk at an uncomfortable brunch. That's it for this episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you at the next escape.